The episode begins with Twilight singing about how everything in Ponyville is great and nothing bad ever happens there. So of course something bad happens. She finds out that all of her friends have their cutie marks switched around, and because of this they've switched their lives around too. Much like in the cutie pox, the characters all feel compelled to do the jobs that are indicated by their marks, although they did miss the point with Rarity a little bit, as Rainbow Dash got her cutie mark from her love of racing and competition, not controlling the weather. This also brings up the question of just how much everyone is actually aware of what happened. The affected characters don't remember the details of their old lives at all. Fluttershy doesn't know anything about animals, Rainbow Dash is really hesitant about breaking up the clouds, Rarity is constantly fascinated by style and patterns, but returning to her shop never even occurs to her. Twilight seems to be the only one who actually knows what's going on. All the background characters are pretty much just annoyed that nothing's going right, but beyond that, we never see the Apple family's reaction to Pinkie Pie suddenly running around the farm like she lives there, nor do we ever see Sweetie Belle's reaction to Applejack running her sister's boutique. In any case, it turns out the reason all this happened was because of a spell gone wrong. We find out that the book Luna brought out at the end of the Crystal Empire was actually Starswirl the Bearded's notebook. The last page has an incomplete spell that Twilight must now finish. As it's currently written, the spell has the effect of mixing up the elements of harmony. Spike intelligently suggests trying solutions to similar problems that they faced, like the cutie pox or Discord's influence that was reversed by Twilight's memory spell. But Twilight explains that their memories haven't been altered, yes they have, and that the problem isn't with them having the wrong cutie marks. Yes it is! Okay, if I had to guess, I'd say that what makes this different is that the spell was cast on the elements rather than affecting the characters directly. As a result, their true destinies have been altered, and Twilight feels guilty because it's her fault. Now, ever since the show began, people far more observant than I am have debated the nature of cutie marks and how this affects the concept of free will. Specifically, can you truly have free will if your actions, your personality, and your entire goal in life are already determined by a magical picture on your butt? Except there are a couple of things to keep in mind here. First, the way the system works naturally is that the mark doesn't reveal itself until after you discover its meaning on your own. And second, in this particular case, the episode isn't actually about free will, at least not entirely. Instead, I think the point is to show that your friends can influence your path in life. This has been scientifically proven, by the way. You do pick up habits depending on how your friends behave. And really, think about it. Did you ever take a class in school because your best friend was there? Did you ever get a job because your friend recommended you? This kind of thing happens all the time. And unfortunately, depending on what path you follow, the result isn't always good. You could end up doing something you aren't good at, something that makes you completely miserable. And worst of all, you might not be able to see a way out, even if the life you really want is literally right next door. But just as friends can influence each other in bad ways, the opposite is also true. With support, encouragement, and a gentle push in the right direction, friends can help each other reach their true potential, to end up where they really should be. This was true even in the beginning of the series. In earlier episodes, looking at the interactions between Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie, or Applejack and Rarity, it was shown that the characters didn't always like each other very much. And in fact, some of them might not have even become friends at all if not for Twilight. And just as Twilight has helped influence all of her friends, they have done the same for her. Her experience with friendship gives her a new perspective that lets her finish the spell. And we find out the reason it didn't work in the first place is because Starswirl didn't understand friendship. This actually makes a bit of sense if you pay attention to the language of the spell in its unfinished form. From his few mentions on the show, Starswirl has come across as someone Twilight sees like a role model. Indeed, he was very intelligent and powerful, just like Twilight. But with this new information, he also represents what Twilight could have become had she never grown beyond her loner attitude in the first episode. Oh, Starswirl accomplished quite a lot and is even remembered in the history books, but without friends to bring balance or even a more robust life experience, something was always missing. Certain concepts were beyond his understanding. Fortunately, Twilight has grown, and in doing so has proven that she's now ready to become a princess. Because apparently her brother marrying Cadance didn't count for that. Actually, considering the way this sort of thing is normally handled, with a girl marrying a prince, or no, we are not going to bring up the goddamn flower! Instead, Twilight not only has to prove that she has the knowledge and power to become a ruler, she also has to have the quality of character necessary to use that power wisely. In other words, she earned this. And even though it's clear that she still needs guidance from Celestia, it will no longer be as her student, but as her equal. And with that, she flies out towards the audience and tells everyone currently planning to leave the fandom everything's going to be just fine. So yeah, I have to admit, I really love this episode. For one thing, while I've had a bit of an issue with the musical segments in Season 3, this episode gives me a new all-time favorite, and I'm tempted to say it's the whole damn thing. While the episode does feel rushed, it was also a fairly brilliant move to make the whole thing a straight up musical. It keeps the story moving along quickly while also keeping the pacing even and maintaining the appropriate emotional cues. This is an episode that makes the most of what it has, and it doesn't waste a single minute. While we get a lot of good songs like Morning in Ponyville and What My Cutie Mark Is Telling Me that help set the tone and get the story going, we also get songs like I've Got to Find a Way, A True True Friend, and Celestia's Ballad. The best Twilight song, the best group song, and the first ever Celestia song all in a row. And they're all just beautiful. And yeah, I actually like the fact that Twilight's an alicorn now. One of my favorite things about this show is the potential for character development. When it's handled well, here we get a major change that's going to carry over into the next season, and I honestly have no idea where they're going to go with it. Though for many people, this brings up the question of whether the ultimate outcome for Twilight contradicts the first half of the episode, as it seems like Celestia is forcing this change on her. And personally, I don't think so. Remember, the other main five had no memory of their previous lives, and we basically saw Twilight pushing them where they needed to be, even though they themselves didn't realize it at the time. But if you're still convinced that Twilight shouldn't be a princess, ask yourself, why did Celestia only have one student, or if she had multiple students, why was Twilight her favorite? And do you really think the ruler of the kingdom would personally mentor Twilight if the goal was for her to work in a library the rest of her life? Even setting aside the fact that Lauren Faust's original plan was for Twilight to become Celestia's successor, the hints were still there.
How about if I help clear out the clouds? Right. No wings.
Maybe this is coming a bit early and it should have been the series finale instead, but it isn't. And personally, I've never been more excited for a new season. Though to be fair, the episode isn't perfect. There are some leaps in logic, there are some awkward moments.
Twilight? I don't think they like it when you go salsa clogging on the table. Oh, I guess it's fine, never mind.
The spell that Twilight creates sounds really hokey. I also thought it was weird that Celestia made Twilight a princess but then blew her off when she asked what she's supposed to actually do. I don't know, that sounds like a pretty legitimate question. It also isn't clear how long the crisis in the opening act actually lasted, and even though it's been revealed that this is the first part in a 3-episode story arc, it's still worth mentioning that it feels like this episode ends prematurely. And just a minor gripe, but the title Magical Mystery Cure sounds like a potion the Flim Flam brothers would sell. Personally, I think the episode deserved a more appropriate title, like, oh, fuck you. So ultimately, yeah, it's far from perfect. In fact, I'd even say it isn't anywhere near as good as the season 2 finale, but that doesn't change the fact that this still feels like something special. Even without making any excuses for potential behind-the-scenes issues, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and my eyes were full of liquid pride the entire time. Magical Mystery Cure gets an 8 out of 10.